Hello guys and welcome back to some more World of Tanks. Today I'm bringing you a fair few replays and different various tanks, but the main subject I'm going to be bringing you today is the title is Why Don't They Listen? Now this isn't a massive rant or anything, but it is to do with tanks and how they are buffed and nerfed. As you can see, a lucky shot there. So you might be wondering why, not too long ago they did a massive buffs and nerfs to certain tanks, and are you going, if you're listening to YouTubers and you look at some of the tanks that get buffed and nerfed, and you're just like, well, that tank didn't really need a buff, or that tank didn't need a nerf, or various, and you're just going, well, that tank is really good. Why on earth did they buff it? Or that tank is actually not very good. Why did they buff it? That kind of thing. And you're just like, well, why? Some of the things, some of the tanks that get nerfed, and you're just like, why? It's not a particularly good tank. Now, unfortunately, the main thing, not saying they don't listen at all, but it feels like it. What they actually do, guys, is they work off just purely off stats. And pretty much, I think the main stat they look at is win rate. So hence why it can be very frustrating if you play the game regularly. That the Centurion AVRE is OP, right? It's doesn't need to aim; it could just do splash damage, and obviously it pens you. It does 1,000, pretty much ruins your game, and it's pretty fast. It's got good armor. It's pretty damn OP. If you ask anybody, you know what I'm talking about, right? But not long after it came out, there were a lot of people going, this is OP, something needs to be done, we don't like it in the game, what's going on? And Wargaming just came back and goes, the win rate is average, it's 50-50, or whatever, 51% or something like that, so it doesn't need a nerf. Now, the thing is, it's a new tank, so everyone was using it. So there was like a Centurion AVRE on both sides of the team pretty much every game. So one of those teams is going to win. So the win rate is going to be about 50% because there's going to be AVREs on both teams. So and one of those teams has got to win, and one of those teams has got to lose. So you're going to have an average win rate of 50%, right? And that wasn't really the issue people were talking about anyway, right? Yeah, okay. Like, one of the main problems in the game is the big guns. I recently made a video about it. Getting one shot or two shotted in pretty much every game is not fun. This is not what the game is about. It should be able to take a few hits before you get killed and things like that. It's not War Thunder. But they will go when the Ruthless came out or whatever. You go, oh, this is not fun, all right? But they will go, oh, its win rate is fairly low. Yes. Oh, it's not. The Ruthless in particular isn't particularly a good tank, but it's still not fun to get hit by it. It can still ruin your particular game if you get hit by a big gun like that. So the person playing the other tank, he might not have a particularly good result. He might go, well, this isn't a fun tank to play. And then the person getting hit and pretty much one-shotted by that tank goes, this isn't a fun game. I'm getting pretty much one-shotted. So neither of those people are having good games, right? Because one is having a bad game because it's a bad tank. The other one's having a bad game because all it takes is one shot to pretty much ruin his game. So neither of those players are happy. But Wargaming just look at the stats and go, oh, okay, the win rate on the Ruthless isn't very good, so we don't particularly need to do anything. Or, in fact, they might buff it, if anything. And they don't look at the nuances. They don't seem to look at the nuances of the game. They don't go, well, okay, the win rate of the Centurion is 50-50, but that's because there's a Centurion on each team. And people don't like playing against it because it's hard to pen, and it can just splash damage the enemy tank to death, right? Because if you're having trouble penning the Centurion, right, you're firing like 3 or 4 shots for every shot you're getting hit by, right? And you don't pen pretty much any of those shots, and the other guy just keeps splashing you, and your health is going down and down and down, but you're playing properly, but struggling to pen, and the other guy's just not playing well at all, but he doesn't have to because he's got good armor and he can just splash you. That is not a fun game mechanic. You're not feeling like you're contributing to the game, and it doesn't feel like what you do in the game matters at all. Which actually kind of goes on to what else I want to talk about. Is I've had this is going to turn into a rant now. I played 3 long gaming sessions recently, one per day, like 2 hours or whatever, and I lost most of my games. Now, I know what you're going to, some people say, oh, get good, blah, blah, blah. Just absolute nonsense. And the reason for that is, like, main thing with me is I pick a tank I want to play in, and I play that tank until I've had what I consider a decent game. That usually means a decent amount of damage, doesn't have to be spectacular, and my team has to win. That kind of the general rule of how I like to play, and then I move on to the next tank. But I was out in the Ignis, which is the Warhammer 40,000 medium tank in Era 2 in Cold War. Everyone will agree it's a pretty decent tank. And I played 7 games, and in those 7 games, I think the minimum amount of damage I did was about 4,800, and the maximum damage I did was about 7,300. And I was getting pretty much every of those games. I was one of the highest damage dealers on both teams. I was first place quite often, or I think in the top 3 in pretty much every one of those games apart from one, where I was like 5th or something. Now you're thinking, right, okay, just a lot of bad luck, right? Especially when you're doing like 7,000 damage, you should be winning that kind of game, right? But then on the 8th game, I had a relative turn up. Now they don't understand about games, so they don't know I can't pause the game. So I had to go AFK. Unfortunately, because the Cold War games are so quick, I came back pretty much at the end of the game. I did 0 damage, 0 assist, 0 kills, and we won the game. Now you're thinking, again, bad luck, right? But when you play 7 games where you're doing one of the highest damage dealers in the game, if not the top damage dealer in the game, you're coming into the top 3 almost every time, and then you lose every single game, and then you go AFK and do nothing, and then you win. That is very, very frustrating, right? And this is kind of the reason why people give up on this game, because it doesn't seem like you have any impact on the game. Now, that's probably the only reason why people do come back to the game, is when you do have a game where you go, oh, it's a tough match, it lasted a long time, the enemy team had some good players, but you outplayed them, and you did a good amount of damage, and you had a good amount of kills, and you just snatched the win just barely. That's the kind of game that brings you back. But those games happen so much less than they used to, and it just feels like you get rolled over in every game. And obviously, like I said, if those kind of things I was talking about happen a lot, it just feels like you're having no impact on a game. You know, and how they could solve this is obviously reducing the big guns in the game. Um, maybe letting you have respawns. So instead of just one life, we've got like three. I know PC have done this in what Frontiers or whatever it's called. I can't remember. I don't really do that, but if I had 3 lives, I could maybe possibly pull back a win, right? From a devastating defeat, but I don't know. I mean, whatever. It's just feels like a total pointless game at this point. I just don't feel like I'm making an impact on most of these games. As you can see, I have now gone down the Japanese TD line. This game is in the tier 4. I have, in fact, got up to tier 6 at this point of recording. By the time this actually comes out, I'll probably be well into tier 7, if not into tier 8. And yeah, the line so far has been pretty damn good. Not a massive fan of this particular one, but it's still good. I think I go off looks a bit too much. I think this particular one looks pretty ugly. As does the tier 6. Unfortunately, it looks a bit like a barn or like an old school caravan. But yeah, hopefully I might bring you some replays in that. But yeah, obviously, and I guess kind of shows you. I mean, it's been the case for a long time now, but lower tiers, half the teams are bots, and it kind of goes to show that new players don't really play World War II. They go into Cold War at the moment. That's attracted some new players, but veterans just kind of skip the early tiers, or just get through them so quickly they're not in it for very long. And yeah, you're basically up against. It shows that not many new players are coming into the game and playing starting from scratch kind of thing, which is well, I'd say a shame, but probably for the best, because this game is very frustrating at the moment. Just seems like Wargaming is just trying to make money rather than actually make a good game, which I know is kind of how companies work, but you know what I mean. Putting in the bare minimum, and not really caring whether the game closes kind of thing. So yeah, we're just carting around right now. We're definitely going to win this match. We've absolutely trounced them, but they are capturing the base. Now we don't want them to capture the base. As you can see, we are a glass cannon TD, so we've got very little hit points, so we've got to be careful of not getting hit. But we've won the game, and I've got 8 kills there? Nice. It's a shame, still 2 off my pools medal. Yeah, still haven't got that at the moment. But as you can see, 2,000 damage in a tier 4. That ain't bad. And that's only a first class, guys. But what can you say? Some people are having very good games in that thing. Alright, we're out in the Rogel Dawn. I'm a Warhammer 40,000 fan, so you know I like to go out in these. I like to go out in these tanks. Yeah, this, like I said, this tank is exceptionally good when on the right maps. Now, this, to be fair, isn't the best map for it, but it can be. But you can obviously, like I said, there's always exceptions, right? You can always go, right, heavy tanks are terrible on Proforovka, correct. But does that mean you're always going to have bad game in a heavy on Proforovka? No, you can still have, occasionally get a good game in it, right? Now, this thing is, like I said, devastating gun with the auto gun and the big, and it's got a big gun and it's got the auto gun. Pretty devastating when combined together. And it's very unusual, right? In World War II, your secondary guns are pretty much almost completely useless. But this one actually has a decent secondary gun, which gives you a massive advantage, right? I've always said that for Cold War. At the moment, if you don't have two workable guns, you're at a major disadvantage in Cold War. Just because there's people with main guns and missiles, and there's guys with main guns and those smaller machine gun type guns that actually do damage. You're just at a disadvantage, right, if you haven't got the two guns. It's because he's big old smack into that guy. The secondary gun has helped me put another shot into him. But unfortunately, what you kind of want to do is don't want to be using both at the same time, kind of thing. You don't want to be reloading both at the same time, because yeah, you can be stuck for a very long time, because the secondary gun's like 20 odd second reload, and your big gun's like 13 seconds. So yeah, if you're reloading both, you're going to be in a bit of trouble if you're getting pushed. But obviously, like I said, at this point in time, I've got the option of reloading. No one's pushing me at the moment, and the teams are equal. Now you're wondering, like, this isn't particularly good gameplay, right, for a heavy tank. I'm sat at the back, which is true. You know, don't disagree with you there, but unfortunately, the tank is so slow. I just couldn't get into the position I wanted to, so I'm kind of stuck here. And that is the main problem with this tank, is it's extremely slow. It hasn't got the best armor either. It's got workable armor. I'm not saying you're not going to bounce anything. As you can see, we have bounced some shots. But, you know, you're going to... When someone loads premium, you're going to really struggle. Man. Trying to get up here, get us a side shot, get our first kill of the game. As you can see, we've got 1,000 assisted in a super heavy, which is pretty good, right? And we've got over 2,000 of our own damage, so 3,000 combined is not bad. And we're just considering what we're going to do here. Are we going to push up around this area? As you can see, it's painfully slow. I think I've even got the equipment to give it extra horsepower. And, you know, as you can see, it doesn't seem to make much difference. And that is the problem with that equipment. On super slow tanks, it doesn't really make much difference, because it's 10% better horsepower, 10% better speed. But if you're super slow, 10% of that isn't very much, right? Which was kind of the point of this equipment, right? As far as I remember, was, oh, this equipment can help you in your slow tanks, but 10% of like 15 miles an hour isn't anything. It's not going to do it, not going to make any difference. So I mean, I was always wondering why they didn't like limit it to super heavies, maybe. I mean, you could put it on. I mean, you could let other tanks have it, but maybe if you know, because you've got like the wheeled wheeled tanks based equipment that only works on them. You could do that for super heavies, right? You could put like this particular equipment only works on super heavies, so like the Type 4, the Type 5, the Rogel Dawn, the Lehman Russ, and the Mouse. It does like 50%, maybe not that much, you know, 50% extra horsepower, 50% extra thing. So you, instead of going 15 miles an hour, you're going 30 or 25. Yeah, I suppose 30 would be it, make the tank very OP. But you know, that kind of thing. But you know, Wargaming doesn't seem to care too much about those kind of improvements. Now, waiting for this guy to poke, because he's getting lit up and pushed by a TD over there. He's kind of rocking back and forwards, trying to get out of the gun sight of that TD, hoping he makes a mistake or gets bored. The thing is also with this thing is some people don't realize it's got a good secondary gun, right? So sometimes when you fire the big gun, they're like, yay, let's pop out. And then get caught out by the autocannon, and or vice versa. Sometimes it's even more devastating. You fire autogun, and they're like, "Oh, he's fired. Let's go out. Let's go out." And then he managed to hit them with the main gun, and they're like, "Oh crap! I didn't realize." So yeah, you can give them a bit of a shock with this gun. As you see, I don't. Yeah, we're in a very tricky situation. We're pretty much surrounded. Now I'm thinking I've got to push one corner or one side, get rid of someone, so that we're not being surrounded, else we're going to lose this game. We are a tank down. There is a tank up there somewhere, trying to see where he's shooting from. Not lighting him up, unfortunately. So we're going to get peppered in the back, but I don't think he's a higher tier tank. So we're down to 2 tanks, but they're down to 3. Our teammate not doing the best job there. So it's 1 on 2. Our auto gun's reloaded, luckily. That guy's up there. Now the thing is, we're super heavy, we're slow. They got better view range, so they could win this by just staying out of my gun sight, staying unspotted and hitting me, and getting around behind me, that kind of thing. So it is very dangerous right now. Basically, we're just really hoping for them to make a mistake at this point. Oh, there we go. He poked up. I'm trying to push him, maybe pressure him into making a mistake. But like I said, if they get around behind me, it's all over. I do have a fair amount of hit points still to play with. So that's one thing. And we track him in place. And again, look, he thought I'd fired. So he pushed to get a shot into me, not realizing that was my auto gun, my secondary gun. And so that gun is pretty devastating. Then I realized that Badger, is it the Badger, is on no health. Now I don't know why. If I was him, I would be running away. If I was him, but there you go. Anyway, if you did like the video, give it a like and a subscribe, because I'm bringing you more replays in the very near future. Nice little tank, love it, but just not the best when it comes to speed. Anyway, bye guys.